Good morning, this is Jim Williams with the Hurricane City Tropical Update on Hurricane Joaquin heading into the central Bahamas. What you're looking at is the HurTrack program showing the past track of Hurricane Joaquin, and the system has been stair-stepping to the southwest in a downward position, a little bit further south than what a lot of the models were indicating yesterday. They were thinking more or less San Salvador Island, Cat Island, Eleuthera Island, and then it turned to the north. But now you look at the position, it's 66 nautical miles to the southeast of San Salvador Island. But surprisingly, I just looked at the observations on the island of San Salvador. Northeast winds 85 miles per hour, gusting to 110, folks. This is a very serious situation for the central Bahamas. I hope everybody made the proper preparations down there, because this system is really putting a whipping on the central Bahamas, and it's going to happen for the next 24 hours. It's not going to be until tomorrow morning that this system starts to lift out of the Bahamas. So for another 24 hours, they're going to be battered by gusts to major hurricane strength, and there's going to be a lot of structural damage. Look for damage in San Salvador, Cat Island, and possibly Eleuthera as this eventually moves off to the north and northeast. On this island, is kind of sparsely populated. There's only about 1,500 people that live on the island. Actually, we're more closer to like 1,300 people that are full-time residents in the island of San Salvador. And it's heavily reliant on tourism. A lot of cruise ships stop there. And it's a very small island, but it's going to take a beating along with the surrounding islands, and maybe even Ackland's Island just to the south of that donut there on the screen could be impacted by this system if it continues to move off to the southwest. They could get it as well. Just on a side note, San Salvador Island is in my top 20 this year. It's number 14, I believe, on the list, or number 15. And I also have Great Abaco Island on my top 20 as well this year. So the Northwest Bahamas and Central Bahamas, I kind of had that in the mix of potential impacts this year from hurricanes. For the rest of my predictions, visit hurricanecity.com/predictions for my city predictions. So anyway, this has been the path of this system. So let's go ahead and animate this and show you where it's going to go from here, and kind of extrapolate where it, let's go ahead and, actually we might not be able to run it. No, let's go ahead and skip that. Let's go ahead and show you the Hurricane Hunter fixes out there right now. And the Hurricane Hunters are flying the system right now in, and while I'm waiting for that image to load, just wanted to mention that the high altitude aircraft was out there yesterday, and they were sampling the upper levels of the atmosphere surrounding Hurricane Joaquin, and that information has gone into the models this morning, and there's been a major shift east in most of the models, and I'll show you those in just a minute. But here's the current Hurricane Hunters flying around out there right now, and some of these wind gusts here just to the southwest and northeast of the center of circulation are tremendous. Winds up to 130 miles an hour. But here is the center vortex message taken from the center of the eye of the hurricane. We have 942 pressure on this, and maximum surface winds of 117 knots. It's around 130 miles an hour. So I would anticipate at the 11 a.m. advisory coming up here, they're going to up the winds a little bit. This may even be a Category 4 hurricane by this afternoon, and that's not out of the realm of possibility. It's a very well organized system. Central dense overcast, meaning the eye is in the center of the hurricane, and we have a 36 nautical mile wide eye with an inner and outer eye wall temperature that's about 8-degree difference. So this system is strengthening rapidly. It's got everything going for it at the moment. The eye is a little bit open to the west and northwest, which is because of some of the drier air coming in from the north and being entrained into the system a little bit. And I'm going to show you the wind flow around this system right now and say why the northwest corner of the eye wall is open at this time. In fact, let me go ahead and do that now. Let me switch images here and show you the water vapor image of. Here is Joaquin in the lower right hand corner of this image in the Bahamas, and you see this cold front right here. And this is, and I've had people email me, Jim, do you think this is going to hit Florida? Well, here's the thing. This front is coming in. It's going to move through Florida, and it's going to be a blocking device. This is not going to come into Florida. I think this will sharply turn north and then head on out in response to this trough. But just to show you that this is the safety valve here, is the fact that there's a wall out in front of this, and it's not going to come to Florida. Now, if this was a stationary trough, then all bets would be off and it would be a Florida storm. But this is going to be coming through Florida and creating a barrier between Joaquin and the state of Florida, so this is not going to be a threat. Also wanted to talk about the steering flow around this system. Here is the wind shear analysis from the University of Wisconsin showing the trough here coming into Florida, and then we have this little ridge of high pressure just to the northwest of Hurricane Joaquin, and this is causing a little bit of northerly wind shear at this point, which is why most of the deepest thunderstorms are developing southeast of the center of circulation rather than northwest of the center of circulation. So it's a little bit of a lopsided system, but it may become a little bit more symmetrical as the day moves on. As it starts to move maybe north a little bit, it's going to be in a much more favorable environment. And it wouldn't surprise me if this thing got up to possibly a Category 5, if it settles in underneath this ridge of high pressure, this very narrow ridge. If it sets underneath that just long enough under these very warm sea surface temperatures, we could see this thing really explode and become, you know, maybe 150, 160 mile an hour hurricane before it gets caught in the trough and slung off to the northeast and begins to get sheared. Now here is the steering flow at the 200 millibar level. And the reason I'm showing you this is this would indicate that, and this is higher up in the atmosphere because this is a very deep hurricane. It's very high up in the atmosphere, and it would tend to be drawn more north and follow the upper level steering flow. And if you follow the streak here through the state of Florida, again, this is moving further east in time, that the flow would be southwest to northeast. And that's what the Euro has been showing for days now, is the fact that this is not going to be coming into the United States, and it would come closer, if anything, to Bermuda and then pass south of the Canadian Maritimes. But it's not etched in stone that the United States is not going to get any impacts from this system, but there's going to be a lot of moisture anyway, because there's going to be areas of low pressure that are going to form on this trough, and the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic is just going to get socked with a ton of rain, regardless of what Hurricane Joaquin does. But right now it looks like the safe bet is off to the northeast, and again, I'll show you the models in just a minute. Also wanted to mention that there's going to be an onshore fetch of waves that are going to propagate out from the center of Hurricane Joaquin towards the southeastern United States. So there's going to be some good wave action coming in to the southeast and all up and down the eastern seaboard as this passes offshore the United States. But right now it looks like that is what's going to happen, is that we're going to see an offshore track and the waves are going to propagate, but this is not going to be a landfall, direct landfall anyway, for the United States. So let's go ahead and run the models on this. And I'm just going to show all the models because to go individually would take a little bit too much time. But here are, using the HurTrack program, we can program in all the models and kind of give you an idea what's happening here. And I said this on the show last night, on the Hurricane Warning Show at hurricanecity.tv, which, by the way, 9 o'clock tonight. Tune in. We'll be back live again. But I talked about on the show last night, somebody asked me, all right, taking all the science out of this, what's your hunch on what this thing is going to do? And I said at the time at the show last night that I think it's going to do an S-shaped type track. It's going to go northeast, then it's going to bend a little bit toward the coast of the United States, then it's going to go northeast and head out to sea without hitting land. But it's going to be a teaser there for a little while. And I think the Euro, actually the Euro does not show that type of a track, but I think if you draw a comparison between the Euro and the GFS, I think the most likely is a slight bend to the northwest and then followed by a track off to the northeast without hitting the United States. But there is the family of models right there, all of the models. And I know there's still quite a few that show it coming into the Mid-Atlantic, but these models are trending right with every run since last night, so I'm anticipating that in a lot of these models, especially the Navy no gaps and the Canadian model, which have a left bias on most of these systems, are going to start coming around to the right as time goes by. Not to say the United States is not going to be impacted by this storm, but it's looking better today for the United States than it did yesterday. And as the day goes on, we'll get better model data. Tomorrow we'll probably know for sure whether this is going to be an impact for the U.S. or not. But we'll keep track of it. We'll be live tonight on the Hurricane Warning Show, 9 p.m., hurricanecity.tv. Let's take one last look at a visible shot of our system. And the system is well organized. And there's the visible loop, floater loop of Hurricane Joaquin. Boy, you don't really see too many hurricanes like this lately in the Atlantic Basin, but this is a very, very well organized system, well on its way to becoming a very, very powerful high-end, Category 4, possibly potentially Category 5. We'll have to see about that. Everybody in the Bahamas, please batten down the hatches, especially if you're in Cat Island and Luthra Island. And, of course, San Salvador is currently getting battered really bad right now. And Acklands Island as well. So hopefully everybody's going to be okay down there, but there's going to be a lot of damage when this is all said and done. And then it'll move north, and we'll have another update over the next day or so as this system moves north, and we'll see if there's going to be any potential landfall for the U.S. That's it for now. Follow us on Twitter, Hurricane City. That's it. Thank you for watching.